The Enneagram is a map of the human personality. It's a tool for navigating relationships. It creates language for what motivates us and helps us look at the way we look at everything else. Most importantly, the Enneagram is a mirror because sometimes you need help seeing yourself. My name is Jeff Cook. I'm a longtime professor of philosophy in Greeley, Colorado, and with me is TJ Wilson, coffee guru, lover of theology, and Enneagram ninja.
Hello.
My man,
Hey.
you will know that this is an Enneagram podcast.
Yeah, I think so.
We normally talk about fairly advanced topics, you and I. We can go into fourth gear when necessary.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to pull back for a season. Sometimes it's good to talk about first gear, as it were.
Sure.
It's good to talk about what it looks like for those of you who are familiar with car metaphors. What does it look like when you're just starting is the first gear. Where do I start? If I'm just getting into Enneagram, look, I'm new here. Somebody drew me into this whole thing. I read a book. Apparently, I'm this number. Now, what do I do?
Right. Yeah. Because there's got to be lots of people like that, right?
There are lots of people like that. And in good news, if you've already figured out your number connected to a number, you have done 3/4 of the work. Like it is all maybe not smooth sailing, but it's all very interesting, fascinating. You can actually use this as a tool now once you know your type. So if that's you, you have figured out your type, and now you're just kind of like, okay, what's next? Somebody handed me a book and there's a description of my type, and this all looks like, yeah, this is me.
Yeah. Right. So is this it? Is
As
that the whole thing?
we have good news for you.
We submit that is not the whole thing.
There's a whole world to explore. It can be fantastic, great to see descriptions of your type, your descriptions of yourself, and you say, yes, this is how I am in the world. But there's absolutely more there once you get into Enneagram. Enneagram is a tool. It names how you see the world. It's going to name a handful of things that you may have already encountered. It's going to tell you some of the places you struggle. It's going to tell you, some of the gifts that you really have. But for TJ and I, the Enneagram gives us insights into how to adjust and how to become more healthy. And that can actually be tricky. It kind of takes an extra set of insights to say, okay, how am I using this number that I've been handed? How do I use it to get me into a place where I'm healthier, where my relationships are better, and where I'm a happier person? And that's where we're going today. Real important to note, Enneagram's not a religion, not a spiritual path. It is a way of seeing into ourselves. Anyone trying to sell it as a religion, go ahead and take your money back.
Yeah, seriously. It is a great tool. It will not do any of the things for you.
Once the Enneagram allows you to see into yourself, it's going to give you language for why you are different from other folks. What Enneagram's going to do is it will showcase your heart, but it will show you other people who have hearts like yours, perspectives like yours, and how they also struggle the same way you do. But there have been thousands of people that have gone before us, thousands of people who have struggled in the same ways that we do and are looking to grow as we are. And here are the insights that they give us. And that's, in my mind, one of the best places that Enneagram can be used. Got a quick footnote. TJ can speak to this. Some of you are really, listen to our stuff, and you're further down the road. You've been doing this Enneagram work for a while. So why should you stick around? You should absolutely stick around. One, the more that I got into this material, this actually challenged me more than any of the advanced stuff that we've been doing recently.
Sure. Yeah.
And two, it was a real helpful reminder when I'm talking to somebody who's just starting out, here are some of the big topics we should talk about together. And for those of you who have been familiar with TJ and I's work, talking with other people about the Enneagram is the single best way for you to grow with this tool.
Yeah, there's so much that can be gained from other people helping you understand the language and see different spots that you're not able to see necessarily. And someone may like hear about an attribute of your type and you are like, nah, I don't really do that. But then they point out how you do that. And it's like, oh, that's what that is.
Yep.
Like, I don't consider myself a passive aggressive person. And reading all about nines being passive aggressive is like, oh, I'm super passive aggressive.
Yep.
That happens.
I concur. For our purposes, we're going to use one dominant metaphor. For those of you who are jumping in to this, you're saying, I'm new to this. I just want you to get one thing in mind. The Enneagram's a map. Enneagram's a map. You've been handed a map, and it says at the top, number 5 or number 3 or number 9 or number 1. And on that map, the only job you really have is to look for the big red arrow that says you are here.
Yeah.
And once you can find yourself on the map, then you can use a map. And that's how maps work. And so what really this whole series is going to be about is for folks who are new and just saying, here's how the map works. And there's 2 things that we're going to assume. One, we're going to assume you know your type. If you don't know your type yet, or if you have friends that don't know their type yet, where should they go, TJ?
We do have some resources available. There is a whole podcast called Start Here, an Enneagram podcast, and it's our attempt to help you, navigate those waters, figure out what your type is. That is a great place to start. The Start Here podcast.
We got typing tools. Jump on there, listen to the first episode. It's going to run you through the 9 types and help people identify what their number is. Second thing, I think I'm assuming this is for a lot of folks, you probably have some literature, something that got put in your hands. It's a podcast or it's a book.
Some of the online tests.
Right. For some of us, the first thing we found was a bigger book, like Suzanne Stabile's The Road Back to You, or Riso and Hudson's The Wisdom of the Enneagram. These are going to have all the types. And maybe you have something like that and you're reading through your description. And that would be fantastic. That's actually a great tool for you to have when you are looking for yourself on the map. So that's one. A second one might be a type-specific book. We have a good friend, Tyler Zack, who's written a handful of type-specific books. So these are like meditations for 3s or meditations for 5s. These can be great. Beth McCord and her husband, Jeff, wrote a series. Same story. This is for Enneagram 9s, for Enneagram 8s. InterVarsity did a fantastic series. We've interviewed some of these folks. Sean Palmer did the book on 3s. Hunter Mobley did the book on 2s. If you find something like that, that can be one of those things that's just real helpful for like type specific reflections. And that's part of seeing yourself on the map. And so I suppose that would be a place to have that in hand. Or a second thing to have in hand would be a podcast like ours. So go to our podcast, look through the catalog. Here's a topic that hits you. Here's about relationships. Here's about how I get what I want. Here's about how I solve problems. If you go to those sorts of podcasts, that's another thing that you can have in hand. So you just need to know your type. You need to have something in hand. If you got those 2 things, then everything that we're going to be talking about today is really going to be helpful and make sense, because now we're going to show you where you are on the map.
Jeff, when was the last time you went to the Greeley Mall?
Man, my kids were 6.
Okay, so 10 years maybe?
Yeah, maybe it's 10, 12 years ago.
So do you think if you walked in there and looked at the mall map that it would look exactly the same as it did when your kids were there?
Probably not. They've torn down the Sears that TJ Wilson used to work at.
That's right. There's a whole part of the mall that's not there anymore.
Yep.
And like the point being that like the map may look you may be really familiar with the map, but it might also be that you forgot some of the stores that were there, that new kiosks popped up, new ideas popped up in the sort of intro land. Like the map is not forever and always static. It
Right.
moves and grows, and people are constantly contributing to the field that is the Enneagram. And so for those of us who have done some of the work, it's not a bad idea to go back to the beginning sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you probably forgot some stuff that you learned there. I know I have.
For anyone who's gotten into our material, we have 7 steps, the patented, rubber stamped. These are around the circle 7 steps. Our last step is to take a break and then to start over. And
Yep.
going back to the beginning and knowing your type, especially on these fronts, of re-looking at the map with fresh eyes. Super helpful.
Yep.
Super helpful.
Indeed.
All right, man. This is how you use the Enneagram. No, wait, how often do you actually talk about like this? How you use the Enneagram? This is a set of ideas that we're going to return to over and again in this series. But for now, we're just going to kind of introduce these and then unpack them later. But the first is that you need to listen for yourself. Language that describes how you experience and engage the world is very valuable and important when talking about Enneagram. You listen for yourself. This is how I come to the world. And getting that vocabulary in your mind and heart can be very valuable because you're going to use it later when you start talking about yourself and talking about how you can grow and how you can move and all the rest.
And there's a lot to be said for what's called the narrative tradition of teaching the Enneagram, where it's like people who identify with a type are the ones telling stories from their own life. And it's really valuable to hear someone say something that you felt but you didn't know needed to be put into words.
Yeah.
Right there. There is so much within this field that I'm still learning things about my type because someone else says it a different way.
Exactly.
And learning to look at all of those things, like it is very much like identifying the parts of the language, the parts of other people talking, the stories, the whatever, learning to see yourself in the places where other people might be speaking.
Yep. Real basic thing for me, one of the first things I learned is that I'm an earner. I'm an Enneagram 1, and alongside 2s and 6s, we earn the things that we want most. And that term, at least for me, was incredibly helpful to say, oh, that is my posture when I come into relationships, when I come to a work environment, even when, I'm with my family, I'm looking to earn the things that I want most. TJ is not going to have an earner posture. TJ is going to commonly withdraw to get what he wants alongside other 4s, 5s, and 9s. And just that language can be incredibly valuable because it's how I'm connecting to the world and getting what I want.
And to nuance that, even just that one little thing, just a little bit, like we both have a sense of our identity coming from the work that we do, right? Like I am a barista, I'm a business owner. This is who I am, and it's not about like there's something about me that is a barista. It's that this is what like makes me fulfilled. This feels right about like something I should be doing in the world.
Yeah.
We both share that.
Yep.
But I don't have to have any type of external source tell me that I'm a good barista in order for me to feel like I'm a good barista. And that is very different for earners. They have to earn the thing that they can feel good about. The work needs to be satisfying some kind of requirements, right?
Yep.
And just knowing that, like we're right next to each other on the Enneagram, knowing that about each other and about ourselves, like it changes the way we work together.
Well said. Second big idea of finding yourself on the map and saying this is where I'm at is that we need to look inwards. This can be uncommon for some of us. Some of us are really going to struggle getting our eyes off of what's out there and turning them inwardly. Enneagram at the beginning is an introspective tool. And so you need to get used to what can be very strange. It's like taking your eyes out and having them look at yourself, right? I'm actually engaging my insides and trying to think about my inner life. And so sometimes we're so focused on what's out there that we don't actually take time to say, what is it that's going on inside of me that's causing me to think about things out there the way that I do.
Mm-hmm.
We have to name our filter. We need to name our glasses. We need to name our predispositions. We need to name our motive. That's what Enneagram does. So, big idea second is you need to get used to looking inside.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I think sets the Enneagram well apart from most other like typing tools, Myers-Briggs, Big Five, uh, Gallup Finder or Strength Finders or whatever they call it now. That like there's so many things that you might take at a big company on it, within your intake paperwork, right? So that bosses can know how to manage you to make better widgets, right? And the Enneagram is entirely about your motivation. You can look at your behavior all day long, but you're not going to fix anything if you don't start to address your motivation. And so this is about your own inner life.
Thirdly, and this is as, what would you call this? It's a pause here for a second. You just got into the Enneagram. It may be the case that your friends told you what type you are. It's very important for you to pause for a minute. Enneagram is never going to be this person tells you who you are. Enneagram exclusively begins with self-discovery.
Yep.
Our work is going to try and give you language and try and give you shapes. So you'll be familiar with, like preschool puzzles where it's like, name the circles and you point to here are the circles, or you have to get into your bank account because you forgot your password, and you have to find here are the crosswalks in these pictures.
Right.
That's
Prove
about
you're not a robot.
Right. Prove you're not a robot. Yeah. This is about the best that TJ and I can do, is say, here's what the crosswalks look like. Here's what the circles look like. Are you a circle? Are you a crosswalk? Are you a donkey? That actually is what finding your type looks like. We would severely caution anyone from taking the word of somebody else who has said, you are a 3, you are an 8, you are clearly, a 2. Mm-hmm. Pause on that for a minute. Ensure that when you read the descriptions that they resonate deeply with you and that you see yourself in them. That's a necessary first step.
Yep. Yeah, the number one rule of the Enneagram, like the first rule, is don't type other people. And this is why. Yep. Like building on what we just said, this is all about your own internal life. And people who are close to you may know you really well, but that does not necessarily mean that they understand your motivation. And so they might be right. They may be your friends, your partner, your parent, or whatever, whoever put this idea into your head, they might be right with what they're thinking, but you are the only one who can decide.
Exactly. The map metaphor is really valuable here, right? You may be in Rome and you're trying to, get to the Vatican or something, and somebody handed you the New York City map. You're going to be crazy confused. Some of the streets may look like they're doing what they do in your surroundings.
Yeah.
But you got the wrong map.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so it's very important to get the right map and that's what the Enneagram is. So Get the right map first. The way you know you're on the right map, by the way, and this would be our fourth step here, is to listen for language that makes you really uncomfortable. Uncomfortability is a fabulous tool. It's a fabulous outcome. If Enneagram is actually working, it will often expose things that we don't like about ourselves. And this is an excellent way to remind myself, oh, good, I'm on the right map.
Yeah, if you were looking for a tool that's going to tell you how great you are, this isn't it. This isn't the one. That's not what this is for. This is for introspection. This is for growth. This is for movement. And it's going to tell you, like, there are bad things about your Enneagram type that make it harder for you to live. It may be the case that you needed this armor when you were young and it kept you alive. And now that you're grown and you're, living life and stuff, it's not serving you anymore. And those things need to be called out. Those things need to be seen so that you can move away from the habits, the messes that you create for yourself without really knowing how or why. Like that, this is about moving things forward for you. And so if you're not uncomfortable in the Enneagram lens that you're using, then maybe you should, try another lens on.
Yep. Partner with that. This can a real temptation. I suppose a lot of really healthy disciplines ends up being that we try to rush things. And even finding your type can be rushed. Some of you'll see your type and it's just you see it, you know it. Some of us, it actually took us a while. So both TJ and I, like it took us a little bit to really get solid in saying, oh no, here's my type.
Mhm.
But so too, some of the work here may take a while. And any habit, any tool that really has a lot of value in life that really goes for depth probably is going to take a while. You can't get through college in a week.
Right.
Some of us wake up one morning and we say, I really want to lose 25 pounds, and it should happen 3 weeks from now. I should be 25 pounds slimmer, and
Sure. Yeah.
it's just not going to happen.
That's not real.
But here's the thing: if you lost half a pound every week, which isn't very much, you would be 25 pounds slimmer in a year. And just developing those habits that it won't be immediate,
Right.
but over time it really does do a significant work. And so get in your mind that this isn't something to rush. This is something to kind of soak in, saturate, make it part of your life. We promise on our end, happiness and joy and relational connection really are the fruit that's going to get born out of that.
Yeah, there's no magic bullet. This isn't Ozempic. I don't know why I've been thinking about that. Like in my prep work for this, I've been thinking about Ozempic a lot because I've been alive for an awful lot of miracle diet options,
sure.
right? And they come in and everyone starts doing them, and then everyone calms down and they go away. And Ozempic is the latest thing, right?
Do you know anybody on Ozempic, or is it just like
if we do, they have not told us this.
I've heard that it's expensive and it's mostly people in New York City that are using this, but
sure, yeah. And it's like the whole point of it is, oh great, you don't want to do any work but you want to lose weight? Here, take this drug.
Right.
That's not how real growth works, and that is not what the Enneagram is for. You're not going to magically find yourself better.
No knock on those of you taking Ozempic. Apparently it just calms your cravings for food. It turns that part of your brain off or something.
But I love food. Why would I want to get rid of that craving?
Because you want to be slender. Sixthly, and this is in deference to TJ, who always reminds us to hold this all loosely. Potentially his favorite phrase on our podcast. Enneagram is not a hard science, because human beings can't be studied as a hard science. Hard science is I mix this chemical and this chemical, and it always results in this reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And human beings fantastically are not like that.
Right.
We are all individuals. We all have our own souls, personalities, things that make us us. There is something that we each contribute to the world around us. Enneagram seeks to give us language to talk about ourselves, but these are very broad categories, and it's not going to give us the deep specificity that sometimes we need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hold this loosely. Allow it, this is a discovery of your motive, and it's an unveiling of yourself in a certain way. It doesn't tell you everything about yourself, but it does tell you some things about yourself. And just finding where it really works is valuable.
Yeah. And it's also a good reminder that this is not a way of life. Like the Enneagram is not like the thing that's going to fix you, or like it's not a religion. It's not a miracle cure. It's not a cult. Like when you fully align yourself with something like a cult, that is now your new identifier, right?
Yep.
The Enneagram is showing you how it is trying to show you the ways that you have learned to adapt to life that are keeping you stuck, are keeping you in a box, are automatic responses instead of you navigating and choosing your own life the Enneagram is showing you ways that you're letting your type do all of that work. And so as you learn this more and more, like, it's still not going to be something that fully identifies you.
Yeah.
You will hopefully see yourself better. And as you see yourself more, you'll see a much more vibrant and whole person underneath your Enneagram type.
Last thing I have in terms of finding yourself on the map is it can be extraordinarily valuable. In fact, I'm not sure that you can do Enneagram work without this. It can be extraordinarily valuable to jump in with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
This can be a lover. This can be a close relationship. This can be somebody, in your community, at your work, somebody you go to coffee with, somebody that just cares about you, wants you to be happier, wants you to be healthier. And somebody who wants to talk about themselves as well. I suppose it can be the case you can work with a therapist, but there's something about friendships, being on the same level, being peers, being able to talk about your life experience at about the same level. My dad knows quite a bit about raising 2 boys. I have 2 boys, but he's 40 years ahead of me on this one,
Right.
in fact, 48 to be exact. Finding the person that's kind of at your level and talking to them about this can be incredibly valuable.
Yeah. And in the same way that, like, your friends might mess up your type if they try to type you because they can't see your inner life, it also may be the case that the people who are closest to you can see things about you that you can't see.
Yep.
And that, like, you're inviting someone else's perspective, a second opinion, if you will. And just like me not being able to see my passive aggressiveness, I need someone else to point out some stuff when I'm going through this list of things that I need to work on. I need to have someone else say, oh, you don't do that. Oh, this is the one that you should start with.
Yep. Exactly right. So those are 7 ways to find yourself on the map. When you are new to this, that's where you start. It's just understanding Enneagram's a map. I'm finding myself on the map and just getting comfortable with the map.
Oh.
Next time we're going to talk about, okay, now that you got the map, now that you found yourself, like what should I expect? What does it look like for me to move forward? Where the hell am I going anyway? That is the adventure. Once you're there, once you take the first few steps out of the house, as Tolkien said, you never know where it's going to sneak you off to. That's totally not a Tolkien quote. I don't know what there's something like that in The Hobbit. I saw it on a bumper sticker once.
Perfect.
But that's what I got. So find the rest of this series, earmark it, consume it. I promise you, I've said this numerous times. I would trade my left arm for all the things that I've learned about the Enneagram. It's been the single most valuable thing I have ever experienced in terms of connecting to myself, to my family, to the God I love. This has been the lenses I needed to really get perspective in my life about me. And so welcome to it.
Yeah, there is a superficial level to this. The what your type, party tricks. People can talk about Enneagram at a party, but really you're just looking at the map at that point. And to come back to the mall metaphor, no one in the whole wide world goes to the mall to look at the map.
Right. There you go.
If you're going to stop at the superficial level, then you can just skip it. You do not have to go inside the mall to know that the mall map is there. It doesn't matter. It won't phase you. You can move on.
Yep.
But if you're looking for real work, you're going to have to move past the map.
Yep. Yeah, you can actually have appreciation for how New York City is laid out. This is how Barcelona is laid out. This is how Rome's laid out. You can that can be fascinating. How much more so actually being boots on the ground. I'm going from here to there. That's what Enneagram offers. And that's what we'll start to get into next time. So again, if you're just getting into this and want to verify your type, go to the Start Here podcast. We have 2 episodes just for you. One is Basics, and one is you might be. So say you think you're a 3 or a 6, there's going to be one that says you might be a 3, listen to that. You might be a 6, listen to that. And then there's ones that say, here's the basics about 3s, here's the basics about 6. That'll help you just verify, yes, this is who I am, where I'm at, and how I, the map I should grab. If you want to get further into, like if you're more of a book person, we said this before, would definitely encourage you to pick up Suzanne Stabile's Road Back to You. Would be a great place to jump. Riso and Hudson, they have a book called The Wisdom of the Enneagram. Great place to jump. Our friend Tyler Zack did 9 type-specific books. Well worth picking up. Our friend Beth McCord, she did 9 type-specific books. Well worth picking up. Like, grab one of these. Like, go, fish around, download the samples, and grab one and jump in.
Mm-hmm. I also really like Daniels and Price did one that's it's called the Essential Enneagram.
Oh, yep.
And that's a nice, like, short, quick. This is designed as a typing book.
If you are down the road a little bit, it's not 2024 anymore. It's 2025. You can also look for the Around the Circle book that is out there.
Yeah.
In fact, we may have a handful of books. In fact, we probably have a ton of resources on our website or on Patreon. You should check those out. There's probably, this whole series is probably there alongside a bunch of other stuff for
So
folks who are just getting into this.
Time traveling right now?
I mean, I'm just speculating about our trajectory.
Okay. I'm on board.
And of course, we have a YouTube channel, assuming that YouTube is still a thing in the year 2034. It's pretty much what I got. You got anything else, TJ?
I got nothing, man.
He's TJ Wilson. He's officially awesome. I'm Jeff Cook. We're thrilled that you're jumping in. And who you aren't just isn't interesting.